I've got the Xshot Insanity Doomsday from the Horrorfire subline. This is proving to be a fun little retread, a little bit, of the Zombie Strike stuff that just doesn't exist anymore, but with an Xshot take to it. Just like the Reaper X, the box for this makes it look like it's in a coffin. Very fall, spooky season, Halloween themed. And also, like the Reaper X, there is this giant foam blade at the front, but unlike the Reaper X, there's not a secondary trigger. Get this thing spinning, you gotta prime it. So this thing right here is an 8-cylinder blaster. And it comes to us in a very familiar shotgun-style shape, which if we're dealing with a monster theme, is a very fitting style blaster to have in your subline. Because this is part of the Xshot Insanity line, you know that there's going to be just a ton of tack rails on this thing, and so let's just point them out. We got the one right along here at the top. I think this is going to be the most practical one, and you also have some on the side here and some on the side there. I'm thinking this, if you have any of the dart holders, is going to be a good use for those, because you're going to be able to go through darts pretty quickly with something like this. Unlike some of the other Xshot blasters that we've seen recently, it doesn't make any use of the skins technology. It's just using shell design, it's using molds for the plastic, as well as these, this one looks like a dragon skull on top, maybe even like a crocodile, alligator, I don't know the difference. But this is a similar motif that's gone through the other blasters in this line. Here we have the Reaper X, here we have the Doomsday. This jaw almost seems like it would fit to this, so these two feel very linked together. And if it wasn't any more obvious, they both have these green foam blades. I'm guessing there's probably like a story behind these. Whether or not it's explicitly said, it just feels like there's a lot of similarity, a lot of cross-compatibility between these two blasters, compared to something like the Dreadhammer. But that's another video. So let's take just an even closer look at some of what this Doomsday has. One thing that I like is the fact that the trigger on this, it has a little design to it. It almost looks like some monster teeth on it, but it's also very comfortable. They designed it in such a way where it's rounded in a spot that makes the pull on it very easy. It seems like they might have realized they had some extra space, so just allowed for a little bit of dart storage. But 2 darts on a blaster that holds 8, it's going to be like a nice little last chance kind of situation, but it's not going to be able to sustain you a little further than that in a battle. But I think what we need to do is we need to load this up with some darts, because we need darts. And just like we saw with the Reaper X, it comes with these very monstrous looking green-tipped darts. I like the look of these. You know, in fact, Xshot's doing a really nice job with some of the dart colors. I like fun darts, what can I say? Now, one thing that I'm noticing as I'm loading this is that there is some room here so that if you don't see the darts all the way, I think you're gonna be okay. You're not gonna be in a situation where you're doing one of these where you're like crushing it or bending it over in half. I think it's going to be okay for the most part. You just need to be careful enough. It's not too life or death, even though the spinning foam blade on the front might make you think otherwise. So let's give this thing a try. There's 8 darts in this thing. I'm just going to fire one off just to get a feel of how well this pops. There we go. And you notice every time you pump on the handle here, this foam blade is going to start spinning. Without further ado, that's the Doomsday. It's pretty impressive. This almost feels like the Last Stand blaster from the Xshot Skins line a little bit, but I kind of like this form factor a little more, which to me is surprising because the Last Stand blaster is a more sci-fi thing. This is a little more, I don't know, what it's like, it's kind of, I suppose it's like adjacent to Gross Out Toys. Themed, that's the word I'm looking for. What I want to try next is to see if it has slam fire. So I'm going to hold down the trigger and I'm just going to keep pumping this thing. Now, if everything goes according to plan, this blade should continue to spin, the dart should continue to fly, and the smile on my face should get bigger. And if this doesn't have slam fire, something might break. Slam fire test, let's go. Look at how fast that's spinning. It has slam fire. The Doomsday is a phenomenal blaster. I'm already liking just the performance of it. I'm liking how it operates, it handles, and the gimmick on the front with the spinning wheel. And it feels more essential here than it does on the Reaper X. The reason I say that is because there's a secondary trigger on the Reaper X that you have to activate purposely to have this spin. By contrast, anytime you prime this blaster the buzzsaw thing in the front is going to spin. So it feels more essential. It's still the same gimmick. It's like freshened up. It's renewed with this form factor, with all of these mechanisms going on. Couple things that I would have changed with it. Just a couple things. First, the stock. I would have either A, done away with it, or B, lengthened it a little bit. I think we could have gotten away with a no stock swept back handle shotgun like that. I think that would have been extraordinarily cool. Alas, we didn't get that. We just have this tiny little stock, but I will give it some points because there are some designs around it. The other thing that I would have changed, and it is a minor nitpick, but when you're looking down the blaster, you kind of see this void where this skull is, and it's not too distracting, but just having like a little piece that would have come down a little bit, I think that would have just smoothed out the overall look of the blaster, because that's really the only part of this that I can think of, that I can find, that is seemingly unfinished. Like the Reaper X before it, the Xshot Doomsday does feel a little more sturdy than your typical Xshot Insanity blaster. I think, again, it has to do with just how some of this is designed. There's a lot more folds, there's a lot more creases. There's elements added to it that just give it a more sturdy feeling. And as you saw with the performance of it, it definitely pops off. It definitely has the slam fire, which is an incredible feature for this, especially because the blade spins along with it. So I've got my giant bag of attachments for the Insanity stuff, and so if you have accessories just like this, you can see just how this operates with everything else. So I think to start with, we're just gonna leave an attachment point here at the top. That way we can stack blasters on top of each other, and really the only one that I'm thinking of right off the bat is the Reaper X. So here's the Reaper X. There might be an issue because the tack rail on the top of this one's so small, and this fake barrel, a dart holder, it comes down a little bit. So I don't know if this is going to interfere with the blaster, so let's connect it and see. Okay, you gotta look at the profile of this thing. This is incredible. So we're already seeing the dividends of this really strong theming paying off. So we have this blaster that we can prime back. Well, let's just get a couple darts. We'll just do this up the right way. How about that? Dart in this barrel. Let's see, which way do these go? Okay, it goes that way. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna spin this, we're gonna spin this, and we're gonna fire both at the same time. Ready? Go! Yes! Yes, this is amazing. So you've got the disc spinning, you've got the darts flying. The Reaper X, the Doomsday are a great pairing. Right now we have a more traditional Xshot Insanity blaster. This is the closest analog to the Doomsday we have, so let's attach these both. Now the issue that I'm already starting to see is that with the scope on this and the skull on this, it's gonna have a hard time attaching to two of these together. So let's see if I just can't make it happen. And you can see here, it's kind of putting some stress on the blaster. I would not recommend this. In fact, I'm just going to back this out right now. And if there is another way to do this, I will try that. But you really can't, because this has a bolt prime on that. If I go this way, you can't prime the blaster. We're going to have to try another way. So let's put it on the sides of the barrels. But that's not going to work either. This bolt prime on this Xshot Insanity blaster is going to cause a lot of troubles for you. The only thing that I can think of... Oh, I have more accessories. What am I thinking? I'm going to use one of these bigger blocks. Let's see if this is going to be more of the ticket here. I think this is going to be it, isn't it? Yes, it is. Look at that. So now we have these two blasters, but you need to have... I think I'm just trying to make this work when it's really not going to work. Now, I think the other thing that we can try is the Dread Hammer. I know I haven't fully reviewed this one yet, so we'll just have to... Shh, don't tell anybody. But we'll put these two together. We'll see how well these work. I'm guessing this might be another odd pairing, but I'm willing to give it a try. So, yeah, you know what? This kind of works. So you'd have to hold the Xshot Insanity Dread Hammer and then have this kind of be something else that you hold on to. It doesn't pair nearly as well as the Doomsday and the Reaper X. So having the Doomsday be the centerpiece of your Xshot Insanity configuration might be a little difficult, which is unfortunate because the line bills itself as something that you can mix and match blasters in a million different ways. While that's technically true here, you wouldn't necessarily have a working combination or one that you would feel comfortable with it being locked in solid. That said, this and the Reaper X go together like peanut butter and jelly. So we've covered style, love the style. We've covered performance, performance is good. We've covered the Xshot Insanity connectability factor. That's just a scale I made up right now, and it's okay. But what do I think about this blaster overall? It can stand on its own. This doesn't have to be part of the Xshot Insanity line. In fact, it probably works better outside of it. You saw with some of the other configurations that it makes using the other blasters a little bit difficult if they are bigger, but the smaller ones seem to be okay. But overall, like, we still see the same value with Xshot, we still see the same amount of darts with Xshot, we still see some amazing gimmicks, and Xshot taking the design of the blaster and leveling it up. We're not just using that printing technology over the blaster to give it really cool graphics. We're using design, we're using shell molds to come up with something unique, something special, something that we haven't really seen since, well, I guess Nerf Zombie Strike. The gimmick of pumping the handle to have the blade spin to index one of the darts to let it go is great. It makes you smile using it, and it makes you smile even larger when you realize this thing has slam fire and you can just let the darts absolutely fly as this blade is spinning. And when it's spinning extremely fast, you can even fan yourself off because of all the sweating you're doing playing in a foam dart battle. I'd love to see more iterations of this style blaster from Xshot in the future. The gimmicks, keep them coming. The theming, the style, keep it coming. The performance, just maintain. And we're having a lot of fun here with the Xshot Insanity Doomsday. And that's all I know about this blaster. And if you like other blasters, if you like collectibles, pop culture items, and trinkets of all kinds of fun things, 6-inch scale action figures, curiosities, retro toys, things like that, you need to hit that subscribe button. You need to follow along. Why? Because toys are awesome, and you owe it to yourself to learn about some of the stuff coming up, or maybe some of the stuff you've already missed. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.